Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Nerf Dinosquad Terrodak. This blaster came out this year in 2023 and is part of the Nerf Dinosquad line. With that out of the way, let's get started by talking about the box. Alright, so starting off with the front of the box, as you can see with this very open packaging, where we can get a preview of the Terrodak, and a little bit of information about the blaster. This blaster includes 12 Nerf Elite darts, and is ages 8+, also plastic-free packaging. Onto the back, we have a little more information about the blaster. Starting with the stock, we have 8 dart storage, 4 darts on one side, 4 darts on the other. This blaster is pump action and has a 4 dart barrel. And moving on to the bottom, we have our instructions, which appears to be the norm with Nerf blasters these days. Seems to be a very simple: load darts in the front, prime the slide, and pull the trigger to fire. So with that all the way, let's get this thing out of the box. Alright, so here we have the Terrodak out of the box, and as usual, we're going to start off by talking about the darts. These are standard Nerf Elite darts with the Dinosquad color scheme, a bluish green body with a lime green tip. And now onto the blaster itself. So here we have the Terrodak, very simple blaster. You load darts in the front here. It holds 4 Nerf Elite darts. Okay. I don't know why these two barrels feel a little loose, but it does hold 4 Nerf Elite darts. Pump action, and then pull the trigger to prime. Fires the top one first, then the right one, then fires the bottom, and then the left. Okay, I don't think there's any slam fire, so we're gonna hold down the trigger. There is no slam fire on this blaster. So with the operation out of the way, let's talk about the, I guess, only other feature on this blaster, the dart storage. So the dart storage is very simple. You slide darts into the stock like so. It holds 4 on one side and 4 on the other. So this makes it pretty easy, or at least supposedly easy, to quickly reload. The darts don't get in the way too much, and they do seem to be held in pretty well, but I still have a feeling they're gonna, maybe some looser darts would fall out of this dart storage pretty easily. There's no rails on this blaster, there's no magazines, no stock attachment points, no barrel attachment points, pretty much no other features. A very simple blaster, so I guess we just have to take this thing down on the range and see how it fares. Alright, here we are down on the range. As you can see, we have our targets set up over there. Here we have the, what is this, Terrodak? Terrodak, keep forgetting its name. And we're going to be loaded up with Nerf Elite. I will be firing 4 shots each, not 4, 8 shots, 8 shots. 8 shots for each dart. Let's see if we can hit anything. And by the way, weirdly enough, the Terrodak has a rear sight, but the front sight is covered by this kind of like horn thing like the pterodactyls have, but I really don't understand why they blocked it with this. I don't get it. Oh, got something. I'm surprised I hit anything. Nerf was going all over the place, but still very surprising. Anyway, let's move on to the next dart. Alright, our next dart is Avenge Force. And Avenge Force does seem to hold okay. Some of the looser ones are falling out, so there is that to keep in mind. Let's see if we can hit anything. Oh, a little better. Oh. Even though the rear sight is completely useless, the front sight actually kind of works. The angle you have to have it at before you can see it, you know, from when you're shouldering it, actually lines it up pretty well. But of course, this being a smart AR blaster, where it shoots in a weird ring like that, when it gets to this dart and this dart, it is kind of hard to aim. So last dart is Dart Zone. The Terrodak stock appears to hold them pretty well. Some darts are somewhat loose in here. Got that. Got that. We did technically hit something and missed. Terrodak isn't bad when it comes to accuracy. This is probably, out of all the Dinosquad blasters that I reviewed, probably the easiest to aim, but it has nothing to do with the rear sight, just of how, I guess, how the stock is and how you angle it and stuff makes it somewhat easier to hit. Anyway, let's move on to the range test. All right, here we are down on the range. And for context, the chicken marks 25 feet, the swan marks 35 feet, the frog marks 40 feet, and the far back wall marks 50 feet from where I'm standing. We're gonna be starting off with Nerf Elite. And four. Our next dart is Adventure Force. Moving on to Dart Zone. 3 and 4. Alright, so after going down there, I checked out where the darts were landing. So starting off with Nerf. Nerf was going approximately 35 feet, give or take a few feet. And Adventure Force was going more towards the 30-foot mark, so about 25 to 30. Dart Zone, I would say about 33 to 35. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the speed test. All right, so here we are at the speed test. We're gonna be starting off with Nerf Elite. 56, 66, 60, 64, 60, 61, 60, 61. Moving on to Adventure Force. 50, 54, 42, 56, 64, 57, 55, 50. Lastly, Dart Zone. 59, 58, 60, 54, 56, 56, 55, 51. All right, so let's move on to the speed data. Nerf, we had an average of 61, a minimum of 56, and a maximum of 66. Next is Adventure Force with an average of 54.75, a minimum of 42, and a maximum of 64. Lastly, we have Dart Zone with an average of 56.13, a minimum of 51, and a maximum of 60. Anyway, with all the tests out of the way, let's move on to my final thoughts. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the Nerf Dinosquad Terrodak? But before that, as usual, I need to go where I bought it and how much I spent. I purchased this blaster at Target for $21.99 USD. All right, so with pricing out of the way, let's move on to talking about the blaster, starting with our first point, aesthetics. So with all other Dinosquad blasters, which are all based on dinosaurs, this blaster is no different. This blaster is based on the pterodactyl, which some people say is not a dinosaur, others people say it is. I don't really care. That's beside the point. So I think the best way to talk about this blaster's aesthetics is piece by piece, starting off with the front, where we have the mouth of the pterodactyl, which is where the barrels come out of. It's kind of cool teeth here, blends in pretty well. I like how they use the pump grip as kind of the bottom jaw. We also have this lizard skin texturing here, which I think is pretty cool. Next we move on to the middle of the blaster, which has these wings on it, little claw fingers, which I think it molded in pretty well here. And here we have what I think, in my opinion, is the least interesting part of the blaster, the pretty standard handle, and then a pretty not too exciting stock here. And we have other details like the little crest here on top here that blocks the rear sight, which I think this is the most questionable aspect of this blaster, is the rear sight. It kind of doesn't line up with the front sight because of this little crest here. But during the accuracy test, I found shouldering this in a specific way allows you to use the front sight pretty well and to pretty accurate results. Something I will mention, another kind of a negative, is how they painted this blaster, which I'm surprised at how much that they use paint on here instead of making this a separate piece like they normally do. But it is kind of smudged on mine. But overall, I think the Terrodak is a pretty cool looking blaster. Next point, ergonomics. Overall, the Terrodak is pretty comfortable, even with this kind of grip pattern, tape, scars, scratches thing that they have going on down here, which is kind of uncomfortable on some of the other Dinosquad blasters, but surprisingly here it's not that bad. Holding the blaster from up front balances pretty well. Even not holding it from the front also kind of balances well. It's not too front heavy, so pretty comfortable. The prime is pretty light and kind of smooth. And then trigger's a little heavy on mine. I'm not sure if it's on every Terrodak, but my trigger is a little heavy. And then stock, even shouldering this as an adult, is pretty comfortable. Overall, I think the Terrodak is one of the more comfortable Dinosquad blasters to hold, so there is that. Let's talk about build quality. Terrodak is a pretty solid blaster. I mean, it feels that way. It does flex a little bit in places like in the stock here, but it's not too big of a deal. I think the only complaint I have about it build quality wise is the slide. Holding it level or holding it straight down doesn't really affect too much, but when it's primed, the slide is a little heavier than the spring that helps it reciprocate can handle, so it kind of just flops around. It's kind of a weak spring. Not sure if it's just my Terrodak, but it is here. So that is something to keep in mind. But other than that, small minor issue, no other build quality issues with the Terrodak that I can see currently. So moving on to compatibility, because this blaster doesn't have any attachment points anywhere or magazines, I guess we just talk about how the darts fit. The dart storage in the stock holds darts pretty well. Even some of the more looser ones, it fits pretty well. So give it props for that, gives it thumbs up for that. As for the barrels, also quite surprising. They do fit loose darts in pretty well. I think we only had one little mishap where during the range test, the final Adventure Force dart just kind of plopped out. Overall, it's pretty compatible with other brands of darts. So my last point I want to make is value. What are you getting for your $21.99 USD? Not much. You are getting 12 Nerf Elite darts, but the blaster you get is kind of a simple 4-shot smart AR pump action blaster. I think blasters around this price point should have more features. And in my opinion, I think this blaster would have benefited greatly if it had slam fire, which this blaster does not have slam fire, which is a little disappointing. And for $22, there are other blasters on the market that have a lot more features on them than the Terrodak. But would I overall recommend the Terrodak? This always comes down to what you're buying it for. If you're looking to collect Dinosquad blasters or just have it for your collection, this is definitely one that you wait for it to go on sale to buy. But if you're looking for a blaster to have, battles with, I'd say try to find something else. This is definitely not one of those blasters that I would recommend to somebody who's going to be using it in a battle. I mean, if you really want to, go ahead. Not going to stop you there. But this is definitely one of those collectible blasters, if anything. Anyway, that'll be the end of the review. Comment your thoughts about this blaster down below. Comment what else you want to see on the channel. Be sure to check out my review on the Nerf Dinosquad Rex Rampage, another Dinosquad blaster. Be sure to check out my other reviews. I have both those linked at the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.